Hey y'all, it's Kim. So this is chapter 12 of the Robert Hur Classified Documents case or report against uh, President Joe Biden. After all the books that have come out, we know there was problems and they decided not to even prosecute him on this, even though they pretty much figured out he pretty much did it. But whatever, two-tier system of justice. Hopefully, we're coming around to Law and Order, but you never know. But anyway, I'm going to split this one up into three because there's so many pages in this section. But let's get started. So anyway, chapter 12, analysis of the evidence, classified notebooks. There's evidence that when Mr. Biden left office in 2017, he willfully, this word right here, willfully retained his classified notebooks. That is, he knew he kept classified information in notebooks stored in his house, and he knew he was not allowed to do so. There's also evidence that Mr. Biden willfully disclosed classified information in his notebooks to his ghostwriter by reading it aloud to him. We conclude that this evidence does not establish Mr. Biden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. We therefore decline prosecution of Mr. Biden based on his retention of notebooks and disclosure of information in them. Willfully. He did it on purpose because he was worried about his legacy. That's been proven, I think, over and over again. So, willful intent. A. There's evidence that Mr. Biden retained the classified notebooks knowing he was not allowed to do so. As with the classified Afghanistan documents, there is evidence that Mr. Biden kept his notebooks after his vice presidency, knowing they were classified and he was not allowed to have them. The evidence shows convincingly that Mr. Biden knew the notebooks as a whole contained classified information. For 8 years, he wrote in his notebooks about classified information during classified meetings in the White House Situation Room and elsewhere. He was familiar with the notebook's contents, which included obviously classified information. When reviewing the notebooks with his monitor, Mr. Biden sometimes read aloud classified notes verbatim, but he also sometimes appeared to skip over classified information, and he warned his monitor that the material in the notebooks could be classified. Mr. Biden also stored the notebooks in a classified safe in the White House for a time as vice president because the notes were classified. In Mr. Biden's written answers to questions from our office, he called in to question whether he knew the information in his notebooks was classified. In those answers, Mr. Biden explained that when he described material in his notebooks to his monitor as classified, he did not actually mean classified. According to Mr. Biden, I may have used the word classified with Mr. Monitor in a generic sense to refer not to the formal classification of national security information, but to sensitive or private topics to ensure that Mr. Monitor would not write about them. Mr. Biden qualified his answer by explaining, I do not recall the specific conversations you referenced with Mr. Monitor, which took place more than 6 years ago. This explanation that classified does not mean classified is not credible. At the time Mr. Biden met with Monitor, Mr. Biden had nearly 50 years of experience dealing with classified information, including as a member of the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence, a member and chairman of the Senate Committee on the Judiciary, and a member and a chairman of the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations, and Vice President of the United States. It is not plausible that a person of his knowledge and experience used the term classified in this context as a euphemism for private. Mr. Biden's explanation is even less credible in light of his actual words to his monitor. As described below, among the times Mr. Biden spoke to his monitor about classified information was when Mr. Biden handed his monitor a notebook entry about a National Security Council meeting in the Situation Room and asked if his monitor could read Mr. Biden's handwriting. Mr. Biden warns monitors some of this may be classified, so be careful, and added, I'm not sure. It isn't marked classified, but this is not a reference to merely private material. In this context, when the former official of Mr. Biden's stature and experience warns somebody or someone without a security clearance to be careful because some information may be classified, and then refers to marked classified material, the former official is talking about classified national security information. The evidence shows that Mr. Biden knew his notebooks contained such information. There's also evidence that Mr. Biden knew he could not keep classified handwritten notes unsecured at home after his time as vice president. And there's all those references, okay? And then Mr. Biden knew the purpose of the classified handling rules to prevent unauthorized disclosure of our nation's secrets. The basic principles of the system that protects classified information should be clear to anyone who understands why it is necessary to protect such material in the first place. Information is classified only if its unauthorized disclosure reasonably could be expected to cause damage to the national security. To prevent such disclosure, people who access classified information must store it in authorized secured places. And if classified information is disclosed, for example, to a foreign adversary, it can be damaged or can damage national security, whether it is typewritten or handwritten. The principles are familiar, even obvious to anyone with experience handling classified information, and they have long been enshrined in the legal and policy regime used to safeguard our nation's secrets. That regime requires classified information to be safeguarded properly, whether it is written by hand or typed on a keyboard. As noted above, when Mr. Biden left office in 2017, he had nearly 50 years of experience with classified information, including 8 years in the second highest position in the executive branch. He was deeply familiar with the measures taken to safeguard classified information and the reasons for them. As Ron Klain, one of Mr. Biden's closest aides, explained to Mr. Biden, had traveled the world, he knew the risk that men and women were taking to gather this information and felt a great deal of responsibility about it. And John McGrail, Mr. Biden's top lawyer at the end of Obama's administration, said he would be surprised if Mr. Biden intentionally took classified materials home because he well knew from extensive government experience that disclosure can harm sources and methods and the national security interest of the United States. Mr. Biden's public statements show he knew the restrictions on handling classified information after leaving office. Mr. Biden's public statements show he knew classified information must be safeguarded to protect intelligence sources and methods. As Mr. Biden has put it, people know I take classified documents and classified information seriously. In a September 2022 interview with CBS, Mr. Biden said the following in response to a question about the marked classified documents allegedly found in Mr. Trump's home or Trump's private home. Reporter, when you saw the photograph of the top secret documents laid out on the floor at Mar-a-Lago, what did you think to yourself looking at the image? Mr. Biden, how that could possibly happen, how anyone could be that irresponsible. And I thought, what data was in there that may compromise sources and methods? By that, I mean names of people who helped or etc. And it just totally irresponsible. Mr. Biden's emphatic and unqualified conclusion that keeping marked classified documents unsecured in one's home is totally irresponsible because it may compromise sources and methods applies equally to his own decision to keep his notebooks at home in unlocked and unauthorized containers. The notebooks, like the marked documents, contain classified information, the unauthorized disclosure of which could compromise intelligence sources and methods and damage national security. And Mr. Biden's public statements during his vice presidency and after demonstrate that he understands classified information, not merely marked classified documents, is what must be protected. These statements undercut his purported belief that he could lawfully retain the classified information in his notebooks. And there's all that stuff. I'm not going to even bother reading that. Y'all can look it up if you're so inclined. All right. Mr. Biden has also publicly acknowledged limits on how he may properly handle classified information in his home, even as a sitting president. In August 2022, he told reporter, Mr. President, in simple terms, is it ever appropriate for a president to take home with him classified and top secret documents? Mr. Biden, depending on the circumstance, for example, I have in my home a cabinet office space that is completely secure. I'm taking home with me today's PDB, the President Daily Brief. It's locked. I have a person with me, military with me. I read it, I lock it back up, and give it to the military. Reporter, without a specialized area in which you can declassify documents, is it ever appropriate for a president to bring classified and top secret documents home with them? Biden, it depends on the document. It depends on how secure the room is. If Mr. Biden thought in 2022 that he was obligated to keep the PDB, the president's daily brief, secured in his home as a sitting president, he would have known in 2017 that as a former vice president and a private citizen, he was not permitted to keep handwritten notes about the president's daily brief and other classified information in unlocked drawers at his home. All right. And then, as vice president, Mr. Biden received advice from staff about the need to secure classified notes properly. Mr. Biden received advice from his staff about the need to secure classified information in the form of notes. In 2011, his first counsel to the vice president, Cynthia Hogan, advised him in writing that classified notes generated in the context of discussions with the historian must be maintained in secure safes and stored in a secure facility. And as vice president, Mr. Biden stored his classified notebooks in a safe, at least for a time, in contrast with his decision after leaving office to keep the notebooks at home in unlocked and unauthorized drawers. After his vice presidency, Mr. Biden stored his classified note cards in a SCIF, but kept his classified notebooks in unlocked drawers at home. When Mr. Biden left office, he knew his staff decided to keep his classified note cards in a SCIF at the National Archives, and he knew his notebooks contained the same type of classified information. As he told his general ghostwriter during a recorded interview in October 2016, the same staff who eventually arranged for careful storage of his classified note cards in an archive SCIF didn't even know he also had possession of his notebooks, which he simply took home with him without informing his staff. As his vice presidency, or after his vice presidency, Mr. Biden was reminded twice more that his classified notes should be secured in a SCIF on each of the 2 days in 2017 when he visited the archive SCIF to review his note cards in writing his book. The form he was required to sign at the archives made clear he was accessing classified information that could not leave the SCIF, and that he had an ongoing obligation to protect this information. At the end of the visit, or at the end of his first visit, archive staff asked to see the notes he had taken during his review of the note cards to ensure he's not removing and mishandling classified information. It should have been clear to Mr. Biden that not only were his classified note cards required to be in a SCIF, he also could not take classified notes about those note cards home with him. And by extension, he could not keep any classified notes at home at all. Mr. Biden has strong motivations to ignore proper procedures for safeguarding his classified notebooks. Finally, Mr. Biden has strong motivations to ignore the proper procedures for safeguarding the classified information in his notebooks. He decided months before leaving office to write a book and began meeting with his ghostwriter while still vice president. After his vice presidency, the notebooks continued to be an invaluable resource that he consulted liberally. During hours of recorded interviews in which he read aloud from his notebooks in his private home, Mr. Biden provided raw material to his ghostwriter detailing meetings and events that would be of interest to prospective readers and buyers of his book. He also likely viewed the notebooks, like the marked classified documents related to Afghanistan recovered from his garage, as an irreplaceable contemporaneous record of some of the most important moments of his vice presidency. This record was invaluable to him for many reasons, including to help defend his record and buttress his legacy as a world leader. B, the evidence does not prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Mr. Biden willfully retained the notebooks. We do not believe this evidence should meet the government's burden at trial to prove Mr. Biden knew his handling of the notebooks broke the law. We expect Mr. Biden's defense would be that he thought his notebooks were his personal property and that he was allowed to take them home after his vice presidency, even if they contain classified information. Enough evidence supports this defense to establish reasonable doubt. First, we expect Mr. Biden to offer direct evidence that he believed he was entitled to take the notebooks home. During his interview with the special counsel's office, Mr. Biden was emphatic, declaring that his notebooks are my property and that every president before me has done the same thing. That is, kept handwritten materials that or after his term in office, even if they contain classified material. He also specifically cited the diaries President Reagan kept while in office, noting that they included classified information. Mr. Biden repeated his theme in his written answers to our questions, writing that, like presidents and vice presidents before me, I understand these notes to be my personal property. At trial, we expect Mr. Biden to offer similar evidence of his subjective understanding. Such evidence will be admissible as to the element of willfulness, which requires proof that Mr. Biden acted with the intent to do something the law forbids, and we expect the evidence of Mr. Biden's state of mind to be compelling, clear, forceful testimony that he did, in fact, believe he was allowed to have the notebooks. While the government could question this testimony's veracity as a convenient answer, perhaps suggested by his attorneys after the discovery of the classified notebooks, such a suggestion lacks evidentiary support, and Mr. Biden's testimony will likely carry significant weight with many jurors. The government could also question the veracity of Mr. Biden's testimony by introducing evidence that he appears to have come to and acted on the belief that he could take home classified notes entirely on his own without the advice or knowledge of any of his staff, including the counsel of the vice president, John McGrail. Based on the evidence we found, Mr. Biden appears to have consulted no one on this significant question. None of the witnesses we interviewed recall Mr. Biden mentioning that he intended to take his classified notebooks home or that he believed he was permitted to do so, even during conversations in which McGrail told Mr. Biden that all of Mr. Biden's records, including all his notes, would be sent to the National Archives. When interviewed, McGrail recalled that Mr. Biden understood why his documents were going to the National Archives. He understood it and accepted it. McGrail also told us the following. Mr. Biden never told McGrail that he was returning any notes he took while vice president, or retaining any notes while he was vice president. Ms. McGrail said Mr. Biden understood the approach of sending all his records to the National Archives so that archivists could separate presidential records from the rest. Mr. Biden never told McGrail that he was retaining any classified notes. McGrail said he would have expected that to be part of the conversation he had with Mr. Biden about the handling of his notes. McGrail never advised Mr. Biden that he could bring home classified material of any kind. Indeed, McGrail said he would be surprised to learn that Mr. Biden took classified materials home, even personal notes. knowing they were classified, because one, that would have been inconsistent with everything that we were killing ourselves trying to accomplish. And two, he knows his home is not a skiff. And as former chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Mr. Biden knew that classified information cannot be stored outside a secure facility because its disclosure can harm national security and compromise intelligence sources and methods. McGrail never spoke to Mr. Biden or anyone else about the Reagan diaries or historical practices of presidents taking home classified diaries or other materials. Let's go ahead and stop here. I'll continue recording so we can get these done. But anyway, I'll talk to you later. Bye.